Hi, my name is Kim Licciardi. I am a senior artist and class facilitator for Sephora. This is my model, Julia. Today I'm going to be doing a demo on a quick, everyday contour and highlight, followed by a great eye look to finish it up. A lot of times we watch these videos on YouTube and see these pictures on Pinterest. We don't really know how to translate that into our day-to-day life. Sometimes it can be really time consuming and we don't always have the time to achieve those looks. Today I'm going to show you how to achieve a great easy look for that in under 20 minutes. So the girl on the go can have the same kind of look that you see in those awesome videos. I have my model's skin already prepped with foundation primer, foundation, and concealer. Also a little bit of blush and eyebrow to kind of balance out the look. So we're really going to be able to dive right into contour and highlight. The thing you want to remember about contour and highlight is that there's a lot of products out there on the market. They're all really great, but finding the one that's right for you is the most important part. If you're just getting started, a powder is always going to be the easiest thing to go with. That's what we're going to do today on Julia. Also, it's the most time effective. You can do a great contour and highlight look in just a few minutes. That way you don't have to have all the different brushes with creams and setting products that kind of entails. What I'm going to do for Julia is use the Kat Von D Contour and Highlight Palette along with my Sephora Pro Contour Brush number 70. I love this brush for contour and highlight because you can actually do both steps with the same brush, which is a great time saver. It's very small and is very kind of dome shaped and precise. The biggest mistake a lot of people use is that they use too big of a brush for their contour and highlight, and that kind of gets it all over the place. You don't have as much specific placement with it. So having a small kind of tapered brush like this is going to give you a lot more control with your product. The colors I'm going to use for Julia today are just going to be like a soft kind of peachy pink for her highlight and more of a taupey color for her contour. I like to always start with the highlight step. That way you are kind of mapping out your bone structure as far as the high planes, and it's going to show a little easier where you want to shade in. So looking at Julia's face, you always want to take face shape into consideration. Julia has a square shaped face. So when you think about a square shaped face, it's going to be kind of even on the sides, not really indenting much on the jaw and the forehead. So when we do a contour on a square face, it's really about bringing balance and kind of pulling in those edges at the top and bottom along with accentuating the cheekbone. So when we do her highlight, we're going to start right on top of her cheekbone right here and kind of just make almost like the letter C with your brush. Taking your product and just really softly kind of laying it down. I'm doing it in the soft pressing motion so not to swipe hard and move the foundation that I've already worked so hard to get perfect right there. Another thing you want to do when you do your powder is you're going to put it right under your eye to set that concealer you did. This is something we like to call the triangle of light. It kind of brings that center to the focus, which is going to bring more harmony and balance to your face after you do your contour. Now that we have that area highlighted, I'm going to do a slight highlight right on her jawline. I'm not going to go too low because I don't want to affect the contour, or too high. It's really going to be right at the bottom of her cheek, pretty much. And then you always want to do a little bit right down the center just to kind of open up the center of the face. So doing a little bit right in between the eyebrows helps to kind of give a nice space in between, and then tracing a little bit right down the bridge of the nose. And you could even take your brush and add a little bit right in the center of the forehead just to give nice light to the center of the face. The last place I'm going to put it in the center is going to be right under her lip. And that is a great area just to kind of give that nice pucker to the lip and definition to the chin. So just as we do to one side, we're going to do the other. A tip I like to share is get a little bit of product on your brush, but then tap off your excess. You always want to work in sheer layers. That way you can really control the amount of product that you get on the face. You don't get too much at first and then you have to go back and remove it and overblend it. So always try to work smarter, not harder, in sheer layers. So we're going to go right under that eye again and just press in our contour just to set that concealer. Press in our highlight. And then do a little bit right by her jawline again. And that's the first step for highlight. You don't see it that much at first, but when we do the final product with the contour, it really kind of steps out and pops. So now we're ready for sculpting. We're going to take our same brush that we used, just kind of wipe off the excess product, and then we're ready to pick up our contour powder. When you do your contour powder, same concept. Pick up a little bit and tap off your excess. Now, one thing I like to teach with contour, if you think about where you really want to place your contour to start, you want the point of saturation to be towards the back of the face always. There's no need to take your brush and start swiping. That's going to give you a really kind of theatrical look. You want to really strategically think about where you're placing your color. So if you take your fingertips and just kind of feeling at your cheekbone, you'll feel right where your hollow is. If you're not too sure, use your ear as your guide. That's a great way to kind of judge. Right by the center of your ear, if you kind of put your thumb forward, you'll feel that little nook right under your cheekbone. That's where you want to start to shade. So lay your brush down towards the back part of the face. That's going to be your point of saturation, your darkest point of color. I like to put my brush down and almost give it like a little wiggle to really get that point. Sometimes I just make like a little brown mark with it. Then I'm ready to kind of start to shade it in. Again, because my brush is so small, it allows me to keep my area exactly where I want my product to go. So after I have my point of saturation, I did not redip my brush, I'm just taking it now and moving it and blending it. So starting to go top and bottom and letting that color just softly kind of blend and diffuse. And you can always redip and get a little bit more product. That goes back to that working in sheer layers, so not take too much at first. So get your point of saturation and then you're gonna blend it out. Another thing you wanna kind of always think about is when you're blending, make sure to blend upward, not so low. You don't wanna ever lower your cheekbone. You always wanna have it look nice and pronounced. I'm gonna do a little shading on her forehead, not much, just a little, just to kind of soften that more square edge. So keeping it right at her hairline. Just gonna give it a little shade. And then we're gonna come right under her jawline with it as well. So whenever you think about doing your jawline, come actually kind of like behind your ear at the back of your jaw and then rope right under, like loop right under. So it gives that really nice shade and chisel to your jaw. And then you're gonna blend down towards your neck. Just like we do to one, we're gonna do the other. This ought to go a little quicker. So again, we're gonna get our point of saturation and then we're just gonna start to diffuse it. So taking my brush and going, tracing the outline of the mark that I just made. You don't need to come in too far with your contour. I like to use the end of the eyebrow as a guide. I don't really cross that threshold. That's more for where blush is gonna go. You don't need to be contoured all the way to your mouth. That can kind of be a little aging, look a little theatrical. You really want your shading to be towards the back perimeter of your face. I'm going to shade in at her forehead a little bit again. Right at her hairline. I like to hold my brush really back on my brush, not high up. The further you hold your brush back, the softer amount of pigment you're going to get. And the more control you'll have over your brush as well. So shading right in under here. And a lot of people ask about nose contour, things like that. That's all great, but that's not something that you have to do every day. This is your great kind of everyday contour and highlight. So now we're ready to move on to a great everyday eye. I did prep my model's eye with an eye primer already. It's really important to always use an eye primer because it's going to help your shadow to go on evenly and really stay all day. So she's already prepped with her primer. We're ready to start her shadow now. What I'm going to do for her shadow is just going to be a really pretty glowy everyday eye. Julia's got great green eyes and blonde hair. I want to give her that kind of Kate Hudson, Selma Hayek, not Selma Hayek, Charlize Theron kind of glow. So what I'm doing right now is I'm going to take a crease brush, something that's got a little bit more of like a tapered dome shape to it. That's going to really mold really well into her crease. And I'm going to take a flat matte shade, close for me, that has a little bit of a taupe to it, and just lay it right down in the center of her eye. That's going to give that kind of contour to the eyelid as well and help to really shape out and define the eye and help whatever shadow we put on top to really pop. The next thing I'm going to do is take a more flat condensed brush and do a lid color. The lid color I'm choosing for Julia is a really beautiful kind of tortoise shell color to really just kind of open up and have her eye have this really gorgeous glow to it. So taking the side of my brush, I'm going to lay down the pigment and just sweep it from side to side, bringing it up to meet the crease, but not putting it on top. Just as to one, we're going to do the other. And I love this type of a color because it really gives a really gorgeous glow without being too golden or too silver. You really have a lot of option about what you can do after doing this type of a color. So now what I want to do is I'm going to give her a little bit of depth in her corner and through her crease. So I'm going to take more of a smudge brush. It kind of almost looks like a little pencil brush, really small and kind of tapered at the top. I'm going to take a little bit of like a deeper color and just kind of shade in and bring it up into the crease. This step I'm doing more placement. I'm going to come back and blend it when I'm done. So taking my smudge brush and really just kind of shading out this side of her lid in the corner and then bringing it up a little bit into that crease. And this step, it's really okay if it doesn't look beautiful because we're going to come back and blend it when we're done. So just mapping it out, making sure it's evenly saturated and smudged. I'm going to bring it just a little bit inward here. Now I'm ready to blend that, so I'm going to take my crease brush, get a little bit of my product, and now I'm going to blend it and move it. So really small kind of motions. I'm doing something called directional blending where the area that I want it to blend to, I'm going to put my brush down and then pull that way. And I like to almost kind of do like little buffing circles, and that really helps to move the product and keep it really evenly saturated. So I'm going to do the same to the other. And then we'll come back and do the finishing touches. I'm a multi-brush holder, so I'm going to hold both brushes in my hands as I come to the side. So again, just taking it right on that corner to give it little definition. It just helps to really kind of open up the eye and give you that extra little wow factor. So once you kind of have your product there with your smudge brush, taking your crease brush and just letting it kind of do the work for you and move it. Now the next step that we're going to go on to do is going to be a little brow highlight under the brow. You always want to have a nice little pop of color under your brow to give some height to that area. That really helps to open up your eye. Let's see, look straight at me. Alright, so now that we have the edges defined a little bit, we're ready for that little pop of color under the brow. So I'm just going to take a soft kind of champagne color and just sweep right down here and then kind of have it come down and blend into those other colors to get a nice wash and blend. That way you can't see where one really starts and one really ends. Now Julia already has a really great eyebrow, but I'm just going to tweak it a little bit. Eyebrows are the most important part of the face, I think. If you wear no makeup at all, wear an eyebrow. I would never leave the house without an eyebrow. So she's already got a really great brow. I'm just going to take a little bit of a taupe brow powder with a little angled brow brush and just kind of fill in a little bit at the top and bottom just to perfect the shape. This is a great tip for anybody that wants a really soft brow, using a brow powder. I love a more dramatic brow as well. There's a lot of great products out there, dip brow, brow pomades. You can use a pencil like a Brow Wiz to really give you that really precise line as well. For instance, on myself, I have no eyebrows. I have to use the Anastasia brow powder and my Brow Wiz. I could not live without either of those products. So just really taking a little bit of the powder and just tweaking that edge and then elongating the sides. Look straight at me. I'm going to do a little bit of a shadow liner, like a tight line with a flat liner brush, just to kind of finish off this look. I'm going to take a matte brown shadow, close for me, and just do a really small tight line with a little smudge and a little wiggle. So when you do this effect, you want to go right into the lash line and just give that beautiful saturation. Taking it right there at the line and just kind of giving it that little wiggle. I'm going to come back and just check my blending and then pop on some blush and we'll be good to go. I always like to step back and check. It's always important to step back and check for your symmetry. So I'm just going to balance this one just a little bit right here. You can always take your fingertips if you have to clean up. Look at me this way a little bit. Just kind of rounding that out right there. All right, open it for me. All right, and now I'm going to pop on a little bit of a pink blush just to balance look. So contour and highlight is really important, but you always want to finish with a little bit of blush. That's the icing on the cake. So smile for me, Julia. I'm going to do a little bit right here on her apple and kind of blend it right up into that contour that we did. Just do the other side, right on the apple, blend it into the contour. And I'm going to pop on a little bit of a more pinky gloss, and we will be good to go. I love to use a more neutral gloss when I do something like this because it's a really kind of simple everyday look. It doesn't have too much of a focal point, so I don't want to do a bold lip. I just want something that's going to kind of pull it all together. So I'm just doing a little mixture of like a kind of soft pink, just to give a little bit of pop on the lip. And that's really it. Feel free to set this look with a setting spray. You can of course use a translucent setting powder, anything like that, and you're good to go for the day. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. Have a good one.